Hey y'all, it's Mary Hyatt, and I am so excited you're here for this month's topic, which is all about body confidence. So, most people think you're either born with confidence or you're not. But the good news is, I am going to show you that that is simply not true. This month, we're going to explore what it's like to live confidently in your body, no matter your shape, your size, your age, your weight. It is going to be good. So, what do you say? Let's hop into it.
Welcome to the Living Fully Alive podcast with Mary Hyatt, here to help you find your authentic voice, learn how to love yourself, and embrace your life. And now, your host, life and mindset coach, body love advocate, and doTERRA Presidential Diamond, Mary Hyatt.
Hey y'all, it is Mary, and I am so excited for today's episode because I bring on a special guest, Natalie Wilson. I cannot wait to introduce her to you. You are going to be so inspired by our conversation. But before I introduce her, I want to make sure that you go back and you listen to the two other episodes from this month's topic of body confidence, because we get into so many great things with each episode. And the first one I talk about kind of in a foundational episode, my 5 steps to feeling confident in your body. I get to walk you through how to create your recipe for feeling confident in your own skin. So make sure to go listen to that introductory episode. And then last week, I had my dear friend Amy Porterfield on the show, who I know y'all love. If you haven't listened to that episode, though, go back and listen to it because we have a raw, candid conversation. We really get into it because we're just great friends in real life. And so we totally just skipped all the norms and talked about Amy's journey of what it looks like for her to show up, even though she's still in the journey of accepting her body, but she's still willing to show up and let herself be seen, like in different weights and different size clothing. And she gives a lot of beautiful insight into what it's like to have to shift your mindset from focusing on your thighs, your cellulite, all the things that you hate about yourself, to focusing on serving and loving other people. And it snaps you out of that kind of body hatred. So go back and listen to that episode with Amy. And I call that the Choosing to Let Yourself Be Seen episode. But today, I can't wait for you to meet Natalie Wilson. She is such an inspiration and a beautiful soul. She is a wife. She is a mother of 3. She is a 3-time breast cancer survivor. She has had over 22 different surgeries, including the removal of her breasts. And so you can imagine why she's a perfect person for our conversation around body confidence, because it's not about being a certain shape or size or having everything perfect in order to be confident. Natalie really demonstrates how to be empowered even when the hardest things happen to your life. Now, Natalie is amazing because she is the owner and creator of High Heel Diaries. And she has had just a wide range of experience in the business world, from interior designer to makeup artist, licensed paralegal. She has been a model, certified coach, practitioner, and author. And now she is primarily spending her time as a motivational and inspirational speaker, a talk show host, a philanthropist, and blogger, and really stepping into this space of empowering other women to love their bodies. And one of Natalie's key accountabilities is to raise awareness and money to support breast cancer survivors in their struggle. She has such a beautiful heart, and proceeds raised by the High Heel Diaries supports women suffering from the financial efforts of their breast cancer diagnosis and helps to provide financial assistance with groceries, utilities, children's expenses, medical expenses, transportation costs to treatment, care packages, or even a well-needed day at the spa. And so as a 3-time breast cancer survivor who has endured 22 surgeries, Natalie understands the physical and emotional battle a woman will go through when losing her breasts. And therefore, all of her work now is really focusing on empowering women, like I said, to be in love with their bodies, to step into their power. And she has been featured in all kinds of magazines, talk shows, interviews. And I'm just so honored that she's with us today. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Natalie Wilson. Hey, everybody. It is Mary, and I am so excited because, as you just heard, Natalie is on the show today. She is so amazing. I have no doubt this is going to be a powerful conversation. But hey, Natalie, how you doing?
Hey, how are you? I'm so excited to talk to you and to
Girl,
see you.
you have quite the story. And
Mm,
I know that when I read your bio, it doesn't even do it justice. And so I want you to give us a little Natalie history and share from
mm-hmm.
your own words. Like, obviously, now you do all this work to empower women and have this whole branch of your business to financially support other women who are going through breast cancer.
Right.
But take us through a little bit of your history and how this all showed up for you,
Yeah.
to the point where you're now like doing this as your give back, as your empowered work. Take us
Yes.
through a little bit of
For
that
sure, I
history.
will. So, are you ready?
Yeah, go for
Okay.
it.
Grab your tissues. No, only
Yeah,
joking.
seriously.
Oh, boy. So, I really have to dial back to when I was younger, when I was a child. Another podcast host asked me a question one time. She said, Natalie, what did you want to be when you were little? And I had said, I wanted to be a maid.
Mm,
Funny. And it's like, yeah, what a great thing to aspire to be. But in hindsight, when I look at my life now and what I'm doing with my life, is that I'm trying to help clean up. I'm trying to help
mm,
organize. I'm trying to help tidy and trying to help people find a place. But I had to find that for myself first. I had to clean up my own life first. And when things started to really like take a turn for the, I don't know if you want to call it the worst, because I really believe everything happens for a reason.
yeah.
But, I went through life, having a normal, happy childhood. I have two older siblings and myself, and then my younger sibling, my sister. And everything was good. And my mom was a single mom, and we watched her, struggle through, but make it through. And, I thought, oh, I'm good. But I was an emotional child, very emotional child. And why I say that is
Mm,
because I always said that, as I started getting older and people were dying, and I thought, how am I going to ever handle if someone in my family dies?
wow.
And I had to deal with that in 2003 when my younger sister was shot and killed.
Mm,
And that was the beginning of, I think, my tests.
mm,
And from there, all within a couple years, my uncle died, who I was very close with, of a brain tumor, healthiest man that you would ever know. And my grandfather died. And then we got pregnant with my second child because I told my mom, hey, mom, we're going to have a baby, and this is going to take everything, all the pain away from losing
mm,
Aisha. And got pregnant, took 4 months, got pregnant, and then lost it at 4 months. So all these things were kind of happening, one thing after the other. And I say that was the beginning of my test because they were definitely trying, and I never thought that I would ever be able to get out of that darkness.
yeah.
But I did. And just for people to know when they lose someone, yes, it's difficult, it's hard. You never think you're going to get past it, especially with this COVID now and people losing one another.
Yeah.
But, I have to say that with faith, it becomes easier to bear. It doesn't ever go away, it becomes easier to bear.
Yeah.
So now we fast track to 2008 now, after my third child. And I finished nursing. I stopped nursing early. I had two other kids, and I have this baby who's nursing, and he's born September 11th. So now it's coming close to Christmas, and I'm like, kid, you're eating too much. Like, you're feeding on one side. You love this one side. You demand all my attention. It's Christmas. Like, I'm my other two babies. I think you've had enough breast milk, so let's call it quits.
Yeah.
And I started to nurse him, and about 2 months after, so maybe February, when, you stop nursing and your breasts kind of go down, and start feeling your normal breast tissue. And I felt a lump in the shower. This would be February of 2008.
Wow.
And I knew this was not normal because I don't have fibrous breasts. And I made an appointment, saw my family doctor. She right away got me a mammogram and ultrasounds. But they both came back saying nothing. They said calcifications of the milk ducts. And to anybody that would make sense, right? Because,
Sure.
I just finished nursing, I've had concerns before with, milk ducts being clogged. So I thought, okay, maybe that's what it is. But something in my gut said, this is more. Wow. And I followed my gut and I asked for another appointment with a different doctor. And she sent me to a plastic and reconstructive surgeon who said, you know what, let's wait another 6 months. I definitely feel something, but let's wait 6 months. Well, the most difficult 6 months.
I was going to say, gosh.
Right? And finally, July of 2008 is when she decided to take it out, and that lump ended up being cancerous.
Wow.
Ductal carcinoma in situ, early breast cancer, but my grade was high and it was aggressive growing. And I was also HER2 positive, which is a protein that we all have. It's a protein that if you have it, it can increase the rate of metastases. So, if your cancer can grow faster if you're HER2 positive. So, she came back to me and we became friendly, her and I, my doctor. So she was quite emotional to have to tell me that. And she gave me the options. She said, I'm going to send you for an MRI. You're going to check and see if there's any other, after we took out that lump, if there's any other suspicious areas, because that'll tell us what we're going to do next.
Yeah.
The MRI yielded that there was some other suspicious areas. Then she told me, you can either go in and take out more tissue and we just keep taking out more tissue, or you can do a subcutaneous mastectomy. And at 35, she said, go home and talk to your husband about it. I was like, you know what? I don't need to talk to my husband. I said, I love him and I respect his opinion. I said, but this is my body. And I want you to take my breast. And while you're there, I want you to do the other one too. Because I don't want to ever have to sit on a regular basis, because I know how I am. I don't want to sit and worry that it happened once and it's going to come on the other. So that was the beginning. That was... I say all that came before was kind of a preamble and a build up to how I was going to be able to deal with being diagnosed with breast cancer.
Wow.
And so that was the beginning of a really, really tumultuous, trying, uphill battle of discovery of my strength, of discovery of who I am and how I'm going to be able to accept my body as it was, because I was a fitness guru. I love my body. I love clothing and I love, sexy clothing. I was like, how am I going to deal with this? You'll hear further, but I'll just quickly say that was only one diagnosis. 8 years later, I was stricken with a second diagnosis in my nipple, because subcutaneous mastectomies means you leave your nipple and you go in and you take out all the tissue behind.
Gotcha. I was curious about that. I was like, how did this play out? Yeah.
Right. And a lot of women say, I've had a mastectomy. How is it possible that I'm going to get cancer again? Well, yeah, there's possibilities, because you still have slight tissue. And if you have tissue, you will still have slight milk ducts. And having that I left my nipple and areola, you need to leave blood supply and tissue in order for that to survive, because a nipple is an organ, right? Mm-hmm. So the second diagnosis was in my nipple. And then 2 months later, the third diagnosis was a little deeper down in the tissue, just underneath the areola area. So all those surgeries that I had prior to that, which was up until that point, it was 16 surgeries.
Wow.
I had to then go back and remove that breast, that reconstructed breast. I had to remove it all. Wow. And at that point, by that time, it was 2016. And I said, you know what? No more surgeries, no more talking about reconstruction. I need to get my head together, get my mind straight, and kind of understand going forward, why am I rebuilding? Like, what is the real reason behind why I want to rebuild? Is it because I'm not happy with my body? Or is it because, I have to say, cancer, you're not going to beat me? And I didn't know. And so I needed to take some time off, because from 2008 to 2016, all I was going through was surgery after surgery after surgery after surgery. And it was kind of like just being robotic about it. It was like, okay, the next surgery is going to be on such and such a date to do such and such a procedure, because everything happens kind of in pieces.
Right.
Yeah. And for me, because I had complications, my body's just weird. It never wants to agree with anything. Sounds like me, no? But my body wasn't cooperative, and I had a lot of complications. I've had 2 blood transfusions, hematomas, a ton of complications. So yeah, that in a nutshell was the back history of, my physical and emotional journey. But there's so many more details.
Yeah. Well, I want to pause you.
Yeah.
Because it's like, just as a listener, I just want to give all of us a moment to digest that. I mean, I'm such an empath. It's just like, imagining and feeling that no one person should ever have to experience what you've gone through. I mean, even before the breast cancer, and then having that, like you said, that was the preamble, and then having that on the heels of what was already a lot of trauma. And, because we're talking about body confidence this month, because there's so much there about grief, and we could have a whole conversation around just processing the emotions around grief. And I want to acknowledge the fact that, even though we're not getting into that you're just the mindset and the willingness that you had to find what this meant for you, to not let that grief completely consume you to the point where you were, long-term incapacitated. I mean, for you to be able to like turn that into something empowering, not everybody can do that or chooses to do that. And I just want to acknowledge you for that, because I think that is a very powerful choice. And I really want to emphasize the word choice in that you had to say, I'm going to turn this for something good.
Yeah. But I will say that, and thank you for that. Because I think a lot of times, you hear, you're so strong, you're so strong, you're so strong. I get that all the time. And all I can do is say is thank you. But I'm not always strong, and because I'm human, and it took, and I always say that I believe that part of being strong is admitting that you can be vulnerable and know that you can be weak, and it's okay to be weak.
Yeah.
The strength comes from how you come out of that and what you do with it.
Totally. Well, and if you think about what your body went through, like, talk about vulnerable. I mean, like, the most vulnerable thing is you were talking about going in and that doctor saying, all right, we want to remove your breasts. And for you to say, okay, this is my choice. I'm going to decide, obviously honoring your husband, but saying like, this is my body, and to choose to remove your breasts. For so many women, especially like you were talking about, coming from the fitness world, coming from, appreciating your body, dressing and all of that, and being in your femininity. It's like, when you think about what really separates men from women biologically,
absolutely,
it's our breasts. And there's so much pressure already to have breasts that are perky and full and bouncy and all the things. And then to go from not even a cosmetic choice of like, I want to have implants or whatever, to there's no option here. Like they are taking this away. Did you go through that psychological part of just your femininity? Like, was that ever a conversation of like, my femininity is being removed? Like, how was that?
100%, like 1000%. And although in the back of my head, I knew that the option to rebuild was there. And I think that kind of eased a little bit of, making that decision. It made it a little bit easier. Right. But that being said, like, nobody knows, how successful reconstruction can be. So yes, it was definitely hard. Part of my grieving process was grieving losing my breasts.
Yeah.
It was losing that, again, that femininity, that part of your body that's indicative of being a woman. Like, what is the other main differences between men and women apart from our, being from Mars and Venus, right?
Right.
It's our breasts and our penis.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Right.
And our private areas. And I loved my body because I went through a very trying teenage years, if you will, because I was born with an umbilical hernia. And so I have a scar down the middle of my stomach, and my stomach muscles never formed properly. So in gym class, or in the gym change room, for instance, I would always go in the bathroom and hide when I changed. I was never those girls that were taking off their clothes. And if I was, hanging out with my friends and we're having a sleepover, I'd go into the bathroom and change. So I already went through that, and I already came to a place in my life where, hey, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But that took time. And now I'm coming to my adult years. I'm having to deal with a whole different idea of body, loving my body, and that up and down relationship with love, hate with my body.
Yeah.
And so it was very difficult. And I knew that at that time, it wasn't about the reconstruction and the fact that I can have breasts back eventually, because, we know what the medical system and the reconstructive procedures are now, and they perform miracles.
Yeah.
But it was more about get what's going on out of my body. I need to get that cancer out, because I have 3 children, a husband, I have a long life to live.
Yeah.
And I couldn't bear the thought of even, ever telling my mother that there's a possibility of losing another child.
Gosh, right? I mean, it puts everything in perspective, because it's funny, because in some ways we're talking about body confidence from like an aesthetic thing. Like, can I love my body despite what it looks like, right? Or can I love my body no matter what its shape or size or what it's been through? But then you think about, if we look at this lens in a different element of body confidence, of having to like trust that your body could heal, to trust that your body like was capable, to be confident in your body's ability to walk you through this. I mean, that alone is a whole other kind of body confidence. Was it innate in you to just trust, like you knew you were going to get through this, or were you like, that was something you had to work through as well?
Well, it was, like I said before, it was more of a robotic kind of thing for me. It was, I need to get to the end result here, which is, yes, to try to have some semblance of a female body once again, but to get past this cancer and to get through the hurdle of removing that cancer from my body, making sure it doesn't ever come back. And that was all I was focused on, because I needed to do that for me and for my family. And so I was dead set. It didn't matter what the doctor told me. Hey, Natalie, we got to cut your arm off in order to build a breast. I don't know, something really crazy. I would have said, okay, because if that's going to help me get to the end of all this, then let's get there. It was at all costs. Let's just do whatever it takes. So, even through the complications, I was like, okay, are the complications, are we fixed now? Okay, what's next? What's next? It was like always, what's next? So my mindset wasn't so much on, oh, what was me? Or, oh, my body looks horrible. I had those moments, of course. I'm not going to lie. When I looked in the mirror every morning and every night when I take off my clothes, and I would see, one breast or 1.5 breasts, because one's on the way to being rebuilt, 1 nipple, 2 nipples, like funny looking. It was like, didn't look good at all, but I had to look past it. All I had to do, and I think this is part of my creative side, because I'm an interior designer and home stager too by trade. And the creative part of me always is able to envision what's to come, right?
Yeah.
And I always had in my head, I envisioned a happy, healthy life. I envisioned a body whereby it might not be perfect, but it's still a somewhat my female body back. Well, it's my female body back. And I always envisioned just being okay and being content with what I was given, because at the end of the day, I knew that this was just a shell. and that
Yeah.
me, Natalie, the person that people love and the person that people accept and appreciate is coming from within. So really didn't matter what the outside looked like, because you can always put clothes on top of that. Right?
Totally. Well, and I think
Right?
that is like, it's such a liberating place to get to not be controlled by the shell, and to really have that like sobering moment of course, because we're human, like we have an ego, and of course we want to feel beautiful and feminine and all of those things. But I think what's so powerful about your story is that recognition of like, if I have my children, my family, my health, I mean, this can do what it needs to do.
Absolutely.
And just that vision of this is just what's carrying me through this life. And I think that if more women could really get in touch with that inner self, like you said, the inner Natalie, the one that people really love. Like nobody is looking at you and saying, Natalie, I love you because of your body.
Right.
I mean, they're like, love you because of your essence, because of your spirit, because of who you are. And you got to really experience that in such a profound way that most people won't get to experience, in the sense of like, we don't know if that's true or not, but I think that it is a universal truth that our bodies are really the least interesting thing about us when you pull it all back. So
absolutely,
I was just thinking about the photos that you have of your body, those like, is it black and white or like sepia looking photos?
Oh, I actually pulled one out here for those who haven't seen it.
Oh, good. Yeah.
This was a spread in a magazine just this summer by photographer Alkan Amin. And he chose to do a spread on scars. And he says he was really particular about who he asked, because he not only wanted this person to have scars, but to know that deep down inside, their essence spoke mounds more about not only their scars, but how it's changed their life and how it's made them the person that they are. And so he reached out to me, and this was in a magazine in Toronto called Zoomer. And
nice.
So this here, if you can see that.
Yeah.
So you see that's the scar down my stomach, and then my breasts. I'm, of course, because it's public, you can't, not showing all my nipples and all that stuff. Right. But it just shows, the scars under my breast. And, we have all these people here that are showing their body. This guy's got a scar all the way down his chest. And I'm just going to show you a couple more, because it's just so beautiful to see. Look at the smile on her face.
And so for those of you who aren't seeing the video and her just listening, there's this beautiful picture of this woman, African-American woman with one breast removed, but the biggest smile you could imagine, just like emanating joy.
Yeah.
And then there's a woman, older woman, white woman, who has scars on her lower abdomen that Natalie's showing. And I think what's so powerful about seeing that, and I love that they chose to do it in black and white, just artistically, it's like, I mean, first of all, I just got to know, like, how did you talk yourself into being confident enough to show up like literally naked for that shoot?
Well, I'll just tell you, part of it doesn't take anything out of me anymore to do that. Literally, my kids have to tell me to put my clothes on in the house. So I walk around there like, Mom, I'm like, what? But I part of what I do with High Heel Diaries is to show, hey, you're okay. Be in love with yourself. Don't worry about anybody else. It's okay to love your body the way it is. Go back to breast now. 1 breast, 2 breasts, no breasts. It doesn't matter. If we're talking about anything else with regards to body shape, love your body the way it is. So I'm an advocate for that. And I do a lot of photo shoots, interviews, podcasts on this subject. So that showing up for that was easy for me. And on top of that, the photographer, he's phenomenal. He makes you feel so comfortable. Like while he's shooting away, we're having conversations about a ton of other things. So
that's so nice.
I truly, literally was stark naked for, a few moments in front of him. No problem with it at all, because once again, it's not just a human body. It's really,
Yeah.
to me, I don't look at it as, yes, it's personal. No, I'm not going to walk out on the street naked, but I mean, I look at your body as, again, just a shell.
Yeah.
And there's so many, what makes us unique is the vast array of how different everybody is, how different everybody's body is, how beautiful and unique each and every body is. Each roll, each crease, each crevice, each scar. I mean, I can count, I don't know if I can even count on 10 fingers how many scars I have.
Right.
But I'm okay with that because each and every scar talks about my story. And it tells about what I went through, how I got there, and where I am now.
Well, right? And there's this beautiful element that the word that's coming to me is appreciation. And which is one of like the highest vibe emotions. It's even higher than gratitude. Like if you, you know, were to measure it in hertz, which we can with our emotions, the effect that it has, appreciation is the highest. So when you can look at your body and all of those things that your body has gone through visibly, and you can see them, and shifting that into a state and a place of appreciation, that's a game changer. Because all of a sudden, like your association with your body is one of almost like, wow, like I'm still here. My body is still kicking it after all of this. And like how profoundly powerful our bodies are, the fact that they can heal themselves, the fact that they can endure all of the trauma, all of like the physical, emotional trauma that everybody's story has. It's just beautiful to see.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
The body, your body is so resilient. And it's like, you know, we find that our strength, we are more resilient than we believe we are. But it's not until you go through what you go through do you end up that, you know, you are, you know, super powerful and you can come through anything, but it's a mindset. It is. And just like loving your body, you know, it takes time to get there. And you have to get to a certain mindset to say, hey, you know what? It doesn't really matter what social media is doing and what everybody else is putting out there. It doesn't matter what media, although nowadays media is not really telling you that you need to be, you know, stick thin. I mean, there's all sizes, right? Like, I think we've already come to that understanding that, you know, we don't have to be a certain size to be appreciated out there in the mainstream. But it's still a thing for people to, I mean, body dysmorphia is a real thing. You know, you look at your body and you will see something totally different than what everybody else sees.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like, you're never good enough. We're our own worst critics.
Yeah.
You know, you're never good enough. And that's what you think, but you are good enough. And it takes time to get there. And it takes time to get to that mindset. And like I said, I told you, I was not always there.
Yeah. Well, it's like, of course. I mean, how could you be? I mean, with everything. I think that's like when we give ourselves permission to be fully human, it's not about perfection. It's like we are going to ebb and flow. There are going to be good days and bad days and really shitty days, like everything in between. You know, it's just like, that's just the nature of being human. Can I ask you an intimate, like vulnerable question? Because I want to like thinking about when this is going to air is Valentine's Day week. Okay. So I was just thinking about, and I know we kind of talked about this a little bit in some of the pre-questions, but I'm curious how this has affected, like losing your breasts, going through all your surgeries, all of that, how that affected your sense of sexuality, in particular, like your being intimate with your husband. Like, I just feel like that's so vulnerable. I mean, obviously your husband's seen you naked a million times, like you've had 3 kids together, all of that, but there's still this thing, I think as women, we want to be attractive to our partners. How did that affect your sexuality, the intimacy? Like, can you talk about that a little bit?
For sure. And it's important. It's an important thing to talk about. So a lot of people don't talk about their personal, you know, intimate relationships anyways. But coming from this experience, especially having lost breasts, it's an important thing to talk about because it's part of the healing process as well. Because if you can't get your handle on that, then it can affect your marriage. And my husband's a man of few words. I'll just say that much. So he's very supportive and very strong,
Mm-hmm.
in so many ways. Will do everything that you need him to do in order to take care of you.
Yeah.
But words are like finding the right words to say. And God love him, it's not his finest point.
Yeah.
And I had to learn to understand that.
Mm.
And on top of just wanting to hear the right words going through this emotional trying time of being diagnosed with breast cancer and going through all these surgeries,
Yeah.
and the thought of, death and all that stuff, I was also struggling with my body.
Yeah.
And for me to look in the mirror and see more scars on top of the scars I already had, which took me time to become comfortable with.
Yeah.
Now I have, either one breast. There's different stages, but
Yeah.
he never made me feel ugly. He never made me feel less than beautiful. He'd always tell me the same thing. Natalie, I love you regardless. I love you regardless. And I knew deep down inside he did.
Yeah.
But, and I'll say this for all women, because I think we want to hear more.
Mm.
And I'm saying this for men too, for the husbands out there that are supporting their women. This is the time when you need to step it up.
Yeah.
Straight up. You'll need to say more. Because she knows you guys are married, you guys love each other. She knows that you love her regardless. That's almost a given.
Yeah.
But yeah, there'll be few men that will have a hard time with it and not,
Sure.
Right? There's going to be those men. But I looked at my body again. It took time to get there, but I had my stages where I hid in the bathroom. I didn't want him in the bathroom when I was coming out the shower. Then I would go and put my clothes on. I'd be fine.
Yeah.
There were times when I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to have to find ways to make, myself sexy all over again, because deep down inside, listen, I'm a sexual being, okay?
Yeah. we can talk about it.
That's another conversation. Another conversation. But I was like, I got to find a way to spice this up again, because no, this is not going to be good if we keep on going on with this. So we have a store around the corner called Aren't We Naughty?
Nice.
And, I found ways to spice up our marriage and intimately. And you can still find sexy lingerie. You can, the brasiers, like there's specialty stores that you can find that can help you find brasiers that can cover your breasts enough that you can still put in your prosthetic and not be seen. So you still look, very feminine.
Yeah.
And that was the tip that I was on. I'm going to, at all costs, turn my husband back on.
Yeah, totally.
And I had to, dig deep, because it wasn't always easy for me to do that, because coming out the shower and looking in the mirror, we can't help but see ourselves, and you can't help but dial back and think about, oh gosh, I don't like what I see here. This is not attractive. How can he be attracted to me? Yeah. And that your mind plays tricks on you. But I learned how to find ways around that. And, we have a very great, intimate relationship. And I feel even more sexy now than I ever did before.
Wow.
Because I feel so empowered by what I've come through. Right? So like, there's nothing sexier than that.
Totally. Well, and
it's gone through. Yeah.
I was telling, the first episode I did for this series on body confidence, I said, if you were to ask any man what is the most attractive thing, it's confidence. Like it's not a particular body part. It's not a size or shape or whatever. It's all like across the board. Men will say, it's confidence. And that's a job between ourselves and ourselves. Like we can't look and only get validation out there. It has to be an internal job of like, and I love that one of the things you keep mentioning, and I want to make sure to point to this, is this idea of the vision. Like in all these things, you had this vision that allowed you to continue to show up, because you knew, hey, if this is how I want my future to be, I got to have the vision. I got to know where I'm headed. And like, I want to have good sex. Like that's going to be a part of my future. So I got to figure this out, like I'm not
Yeah.
willing to sacrifice that no matter what. Or I
No.
want to have my health. I want to have, fitness. I want to have these elements in my life, but
Yeah.
that required that vision of, hey, this is what I want. I want it to be good. I
Yeah,
want it
you
to be
did.
really good. And that's
Yeah.
so cool because it takes that vision first to know what you're willing to show up for ultimately.
Yeah, and for sure. And hey, I was being greedy. I wanted it all. And I knew
Awesome.
that I had to do everything to get there.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, um, I've had some criticism, and some of it, was very subliminal, but I, very intuitive, and I can read, between the lines. And I had some that were very direct, like my godmother, for instance. Like, what are you doing? Why are you still going through surgery? You're fine. You're good. Your cancer is cured. Why are you still doing this to yourself? And I was like, no one can tell another person when they should be okay with their body. You have to get there on your own. And especially when you're going through surgical procedures because of whether it's breast cancer or you've lost a limb or what have you, you have to get to that acceptance on your own.
Totally.
And it's just like physical and emotional healing. They come hands in hands.
Yeah.
And with the emotional, like I had to deal with both of it. And with the emotional stages of healing, like I started off with the beginning stages, which was the shock and the denial and the anger. And you have to go through the processes of, bargaining and, acceptance eventually. And then moving on and saying, hey, you know what, this is what it is. Let's just kind of move it along. There's other things in life to think about.
Yeah.
And the final stage eventually is philanthropy. And that's how High Heel Diaries came about. So
it's so powerful. We talked about this on the last episode, how when you get into a place of service, it snaps you out of all that focus on yourself and your insecurities or the shame. It's like all of a sudden you can't be down here. You start, looking out and wanting to help people and love people. It gets you out of your self-pity. It gets you out of that woe is me. And I think what you're doing is so freaking amazing. Like it's so encouraging to see where you've chosen to take this. And I would love for you to just share a little bit about High Heel Diaries and what the mission is and what you guys do, because I think it will be such a hope for a lot of people.
For sure, I will. So High Heel Diaries, I started in 2016, and this was just the summer of 2016 was when I had to lose the whole reconstructed breast all over again. And that was when I said, I'm going to take a break.
Yeah.
And my break was being off of work. It was no surgeries. It was starting to be a lot of selfish me time, and a good selfish. It's not a bad selfish me time. And I did a lot of reading and research and speaking with friends and family. And the more I spoke about my journey and how positive people heard me sound about it, they're like, you should really do something with this, Natalie. And I was like, I've learned so much now, because it's not because of only the first diagnosis, but the 8 years in between that, between the first and the second and third, I learned so much. And so I knew I wanted a platform where I could speak to women about my journey, but as a way of showing kind of, I've been there, done that, and I'm okay. See me, hear me, and you can too. But I'm going to help you along the way because I know it's not easy. So let me teach you what I've learned. Let me inspire you to help to get there. Let me empower you to help to get there. And so High Heel Diaries, and heel, by the way, is spelled Heal for all that don't know, because it's very important to understand that this is a healing process, and although we as women try to always keep our heads high and walk strong and go out there and do all this, we work our businesses, we come take care of children, our spouses. You have to sometimes sit back and open up your diaries, talk about your personal issues, get them out, take that weight off your shoulders in order to allow other people to help you and to start to heal.
I love it.
So it's a multifaceted platform. I became a certified coach practitioner so that I can help encourage women to kind of get to that better place in life. but with, trained tactics and techniques, right? Because I can always tell people, I've been there, done that. But, sometimes a little bit of education behind you kind of helps a little bit more.
Totally.
People like to know that, right?
Yeah.
So I do life coaching. I'm a motivational speaker. I speak at schools. I speak at women's groups. I speak at a lot of different empowerment conferences. I have a YouTube talk show where I interview women that have gone through their personal struggle, but are at a place where they're ready to share their journey so that they can empower others. So it's on that gets all the information out there on a worldwide basis.
Love it.
I do a lot of events where we raise money to help support women that are going through their current diagnosis. Now, the thing about all these foundations, they're lovely and they're needed because it helps to create funds to do research in order to, of course, try to find an end to this, which, that's another subject because I don't know why there's not an end to breast cancer already or cancer, period.
Yeah.
But that's another topic of conversation because you don't want me to go there. But what I do with my platform is with the events, money raised goes to helping women that are going through their current diagnosis. Say they're off of work and their benefits run out and they still have bills to pay and children's activities to pay for and groceries to buy. So that money will go to women that have a need. And you might be okay with the income. Say you have a dual income, but you just need a break from this cancer talk, this cancer journey. And so I'll give them a day at the spa just to relax and just take their mind off of things, right?
So good.
So, yeah. So I do, as I mentioned before, a lot of the work that I do is to promote body confidence, body wellness, inspiration to, you know what, you're beautiful. It's regardless of what you think. When you put yourself out there and you're confident enough to put yourself out there for other people to see, you are helping others. As much as it might take all your might to get there, what you're doing is you're helping other people to find that power to get there as well. And I knew that I had to do that for others because not everybody can find that voice. Not everybody has that voice. And I find I have a very big voice and I'm happy with that.
Yeah. My boyfriend says the same thing about me. He's like, girl, you could just talk and talk and talk. I'm like,
yeah. I'm like, shh, give somebody else a chance to talk.
Right.
Like, no, wait, I'm not finished yet.
I love it. Oh, it's so beautiful. I mean, all the facets of everything that you do is,
Thank you.
I mean, it's just inspiring and it's beautiful to see women who are stepping into their bigness more and more and more. And I want to make sure that everybody knows where to find you in case they want to work with you, if they want to support High Heel Diaries in any way, shape, or form. Where's the best place for them to connect with you?
Well, you can find me social media, all over social media. So, of course, my YouTube talk show is, of course, going to be on YouTube. And everything, by the way, is just strictly High Heel Diaries. And so YouTube is where you can find my talk show and any other interviews. My website is a one-stop shop for everything that I do. It has all of my services there. I forgot to say that I'm a makeup artist as well. So I've incorporated that into what I do because I believe in looking good, feeling better. And there is such an organization called Look Good, Feel Better. But I always find that, taking care of yourself and, your appearances, when you look at yourself in the mirror and you like what you see looking back at you, it transcends inside and helps you to heal. So all my services are on my website, highheeldiaries.com.
Awesome.
Any events that I've ever done, if you want to just read up on some of the articles for some inspiration, they're all on there under resources. There's resources on there as well for women that are going through their cancer journey right now and that need support systems. Twitter, what else? Instagram is my baby, so every day, all day, I'm on Instagram.
You have a great Instagram, and I'll make sure to link to everything. Put all in the show notes. I'll make sure to have all your social and your website, and
thank you,
so people can connect with you. But Natalie, thank you for sharing your story and for sharing your voice with me and with
You're
everybody
welcome.
listening and obviously the world. I'm grateful for
Thank
you.
you.
And is there anything else, any last words of wisdom before we sign off, or do you feel like that's good?
Well, I always have lots to say as we talked about, but I want to leave with four things that I want women or men to sit and think about tonight. And it's part of something that I use during my coaching, and they're the cognitive reflex conditioning. And it's four things that I say to think about and try to implement into your life in order to get to that better place. And so the four R's are recognize, replace, repeat. Sorry, recognize, realize, replace, repeat. So recognize that there's something going on that you need to change or you need to fix. Realize that there are things that you can do, and this is what you need to think about. What can I do in order to fix this? I'm racking my head on a daily basis about the same thing over and over again. I keep talking about it. I keep telling my friends the same thing, and I keep repeating the same old story.
Yeah.
So realize that you need to do something to change. Replace anything bad that's causing you to be down with some good stuff, and then keep repeating. Repeat. We're creatures of habits, and if you replace your habits in your life with good and positive things and people, you will start to see yourself coming to where you really want to be.
I could not agree with that more.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes. Those three are so good. I mean, that's like
Yeah.
the beginning of change
Yes,
right there.
absolutely. And we got to start somewhere. So never knock yourself down for being where you are. You will get there.
So good. Girl, thank you.
Thank you for having me. It was lovely to speak with you. What a great conversation.
You're so welcome. Well, y'all, I hope you enjoyed this as much as we did. Make sure to share it with your girlfriends, post it on your social media, and tag Natalie and I in it so that we can repost. But I've got one more episode in this month's topic of body confidence. I can't wait to talk to you about it next week with another special guest. But until then, remember that the purpose of life is to be grateful, to be great, and to be full. I'll see y'all next week. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you got some amazing nuggets to take home and start implementing into your life. And if you're looking for the show notes and links, head on over to maryhyatt.com/show. And if you loved it, why not bring your girlfriends along this journey of becoming fully alive with you? Just give a quick share of this episode to your social channels and enjoy those debriefing convos with your besties. Thanks again, and I can't wait to connect with you next week.